Hello, welcome to the Inside the Birds NFL Weekly Preview. It is week 5 in the NFL. Of course, the Philadelphia Eagles are on their bye week, much needed, 2-2 going into the bye week, coming off a really bad loss. They're in a very interesting position this week where they get to watch their division rival, the Washington Commanders, who are already 3-1, play their next opponent, the Cleveland Browns, who are off to a terrible start. So you're in that weird position if you're the Eagles. Do you root for Washington because they're playing Cleveland and you don't want Cleveland to have a get-right game before they got to come play you? No, you probably don't want to root for your division rival to go to 4-1. At the same time, you don't want the Cleveland Browns, who have just stunk on ice all year long, to get right and, start to get healthy and then come into your house in 2 weeks feeling good about itself because it's finally coming off a win. So it'll be an interesting game. We'll talk about the Browns versus the Commanders here as they match up. Right now, Cleveland's only win come a gift against the Jacksonville Jaguars. We had a great game Thursday night. Don't usually get a really, good game on Thursday Night Football, but you had an NFC South clash between the Falcons and the Bucs. The Falcons pull it off. They get a late field goal to tie the game and go to overtime, and then they get a touchdown drive by Kirk Cousins to win it 36-30. I picked Atlanta in my Pick'em League because they were 2.5-point favorites. I picked them because they were at home and they needed to win that game. They clearly had to be able to bounce back from that loss to Kansas City. They couldn't lose and fall to 1-3. And it just felt like two evenly matched teams. They were the home team, and they were the team that needed the win more than Tampa Bay. That being said, after watching this game and seeing all three of the competitive NFC South teams, Atlanta, Tampa, and New Orleans, I think the Bucs are the better team. They've got some injuries. They got to get Winfield back. They got to get Kalijah Kancey back. Their defense isn't great right now, but I do think if they get healthy and by the end of the year, they're going to have a little slugfest here with Atlanta and New Orleans, and these guys are going to play each other all again. I think Tampa Bay so far looks like the best team. They should have won this game. I mean, they were up by a field goal, and the fourth quarter really ruined them. They had a really bad fumble from Irving, and then they had a really bad penalty on their next drive, or else they could have put that game away. I mean, they were up by 3. They get the ball. There's only about 6.5 left to go, right? So they get the ball after they block Koo's field goal. Rough game for the kicker until the end. And there's 6.5 left in the fourth quarter. They're up by 3. They're driving. They're in Atlanta territory. And then the kid fumbles back to the Falcons. And that hurt them. They could have gone up 6 there. You're up by 6 with 2:50 to go. You basically force then the Falcons to have to go down the field and score a touchdown. Not saying the Falcons couldn't have done it. Certainly did it against the Eagles 2 weeks prior, but that would have been difficult. They give the ball back to Atlanta. Now what happens is Atlanta does start to move the ball a little bit. They ran on first down. Here's where I think Atlanta lost the game. Okay. Atlanta lost the game because here's where they almost lost the game. Obviously, the Falcons won the game, but here's what I question about the Falcons' game plan. They're trying to, on a day where Kirk Cousins is throwing the ball all around, Kyle Pitts is open, McLeod's open, Mooney's open. They are trying to run the ball with their backup running back on first down every time. So they get the ball with 2:50 left to go. Algier -2. Well, great. Now you're behind the sticks. Then Cousins gets sacked for 7 yards. And then what happens is Cousins, on 4th and 15, throws an interception. Bam. So Tampa Bay gets the ball back, 1:44 left to play. What happens? Well, the Bucs get a bad holding call on the rookie, Graham Barton, get a bad holding call, puts him behind the sticks. Then they got to throw, and they get a screen, right? They throw a screen, -2. Then Irving gets a run on 3rd and 25, only gets 1 yard. Obviously, at that point, they're just trying to take some time off the clock and force the Falcons to use the timeout, which they do. And then they punt the ball back to the Falcons. And then from there on, the Falcons, with about a minute and 10 left to go, they decide they're going to throw the ball. And what happens? They throw the ball really well. Cousins gets 5 yards. Then Cousins gets 17 yards to Mooney. Then he gets 13 yards to McLeod, who fumbles, but the ball goes out of bounds. Then he spikes it. Then they get 6 more yards. They don't put the ball in the running back's hands. Obviously, there's time running down, but they tried that way too much in the fourth quarter on their first downs. I don't understand why they were trying to get the run game established when they were losing. Even I get that they were only down by a field goal when the quarter started, but the point is they were moving the ball so well through the air. And once Kirk Cousins got into the position where he had to throw the ball, just like he did against the Eagles, he threw the ball, he connected, he got them in field goal territory. Koo makes a 52-yard field goal to tie the game. They go into overtime. What do they do in overtime? Of course, 1st and 10, first play of the drive. Tyson Algier, 1 yard. Great. How'd that go? Then it's 2nd and 9. Bang. Cousins to London, 6 yards. Bang. Cousins to London again, 18 yards. And then Cousins to Hodge. Amazingly, kid comes in when London gets hurt, and it's a 45-yard touchdown. Moral of the story, folks, is that the Falcons can throw the ball. Kirk Cousins is pretty good. Why they're hell-bent on running the ball in the fourth quarter, just to say they're keeping an honest running game, is beyond me on a day when Cousins is going to throw for 500 yards. Cousins showed you he can play this game. Anyone who thinks that Kirk Cousins is not a good quarterback or likes to make fun of his primetime record, well, guess what? He's got 2 primetime games this year, 2 wins, 2 comeback wins, 2 fourth quarter wins, 2 last drive wins. Kirk Cousins can play. And I still don't think he's playing his best football. I know he threw for 500 yards. He still, to me, looks like he's trying to figure out how to get comfortable in an entirely different offense that he played in. But if he can do this while he's still trying to figure it out, that's pretty good for Atlanta. You saw the play that separates good quarterbacks from really good to great quarterbacks. He had a play to Mooney, and it wasn't even caught. Mooney dropped the ball, but you saw how well Kirk Cousins can throw with anticipation in this league. He threw a ball, and they highlighted this on the game. It's not like I found this by myself, but he threw a ball to Mooney when he absolutely needed a play to be made as the pocket was closing in on him, and Mooney had not yet come out of his break. Mooney was running a fly route down the field, and then he had to come back to get it, but the ball was out of Kirk Cousins' hand while Mooney's back was still Cousins. That's great processing. That is developing a rhythm with your wide receivers. That is high-level quarterback play. Those are the things. There's a concept called throwing with timing, and there's a concept called throwing with anticipation. They're not the same thing. Timing is when you release the ball. The receiver knows where the break is. He could be coming out of his break and expect the ball to be there, and it's a route the receiver is going to run. He knows he's going to get the ball, and you put it in the right spot at the right time, okay? Anticipation is throwing the ball when the receiver may not even realize the ball's coming to him, but he can turn around and be there, catch the ball. Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams had some of the best anticipation connections in Green Bay over those last few years before they went their separate ways. That is high-level quarterback play. Now, you can make all fun of Kirk Cousins. He's never won anything. He's never done this, never done that. And look, I don't think they're going to win the Super Bowl this year. I like the Falcons, but I don't think they're great. But that was high-level quarterback play. I like what the Falcons are doing. I just think that right now, the Buccaneers, when they get healthier on defense, they'll get Winfield back. They'll get Kalijah Cansey back. Right now, they have to manufacture a lot of their good defense, a lot of their pass rush. They have to rely on Todd Bowles confusing, disguising, deception on the back end, movement, putting guys at the line of scrimmage and dropping them. I mean, he's Todd Bowles. That's what he does, and he's in his bag, and that's what he's going to need to do until he gets a little healthier on defense. In the end, I would think if they do get healthy and they continue to play this well offensively, and they keep Godwin healthy and Evans, and you're seeing Sterling Shepard and Trey Palmer emerge as number 3 guys. Jalen McMillan, the rookie, has made some catches. He's been hurt, but he'll come back. And if Bucky Irving can be kind of the lightning to the thunder that you get with Rachaad White, it's not great running game, but if it's honest, they can overcome their deficiencies that they have on the offensive line or grow as an offensive line. If they can continue to play like this offensively and get healthy on defense, I think the Bucs will be a tough out and probably will win the NFC South. But it will be a good race between them and the Falcons. I just think the Saints are a little bit behind. Now, they can surprise me. We'll get into their game against Kansas City on Monday night a little bit. But I just look at right now, I look at the Bucs, I look at the Falcons, and I think they're a little notch ahead in the playmaking department, both on offense and defense, than the New Orleans Saints. All right, the 1 o'clock games this week. You have the Cleveland Browns at the Commanders. The Commanders have won 2 straight road games. I didn't love them last week. I said I think that coming off that primetime win against the Bengals, it's tough. You got to go on the road again. You got to play out on the West Coast. You're playing a Cardinals team that isn't good, but you're going out there early. It is hard when you have a young rookie quarterback, even if he's playing well, to go win 2 road games back to back in a short turnaround. Well, guess what? They did it because the kid is special. Jaden Daniels has not only thrown the ball really well. If you watched him at LSU, you knew he could do that. He's not only run the ball well. If you watched him at LSU, you knew he could do that. He's been really protective of the football. He has 1 interception in 106 pass attempts. It's pretty good. 1 interception in 106 pass attempts. And they're not exactly being conservative with Daniels either. He had to throw the ball 30 times against Arizona. He completed 26 passes, 86.7%, which would look great ordinarily by itself if he had not completed 91% of his passes against the Bengals. And then the week before, he's 23 of 29 against the Giants. So yes, is he running the ball like rookie quarterbacks who can move around do? Yeah, absolutely. But they're not being conservative with him. They're throwing the ball. And if they win this game against the Browns, who right now stink, the Commanders will be 4-1. They'll have a 1.5 game lead in the NFC East, which is absolutely huge for them because you do expect that they'll come back to earth a little bit. They'll have some rough patches, but to be able to jump out to a lead like that, if they win this game, would be absolutely enormous. Remember, they always beat the Eagles. I mean, they give the Eagles problems. They gave them problems last year. They gave them problems 2 years ago. They always seem to give the Eagles issues. So that game, when they play in a couple of weeks, will be really interesting. But the Commanders right now, they're stacking wins. They may not have Brian Robinson for the game, but they should get Austin Eckler back. Eckler had the concussion. He didn't even make the trip out to Arizona, but he's expected to be back for this game. On the other side, the Browns need to win or they're done. Done. They'll be cooked. They are 1-3. They had a gift win over the Jaguars. They lost back-to-back games against the Giants and the Raiders. I mean, folks, that's not like 2 Super Bowl contenders there. They are as pathetic as it gets. They have been banged up on the offensive line, so maybe they will get improved there with health. But it is really, really hard to see this team getting a lot better if Deshaun Watson continues to play the way he's played, which has not been good. They have not scored more than 18 points in a game yet this year. All right, I keep saying this week after week. At some point, the head coach, Kevin Stefanski's got to look over his shoulder, see Jameis Winston there. I know they have DTR, Thompson Robinson. I don't know who they would go to. I would think it would be Jameis Winston, but I don't know. But either way, at some point, they've got to watch the film and say Deshaun Watson can't make the throws, isn't making the throws that we need to make. And if they go to 1-4, look at what their schedule looks like. Eagles, Bengals, Ravens, Chargers, Saints, Steelers, and then later on in the year, they get Kansas City and Miami, and Miami could be a lot better later in the year if Tua comes back. I mean, none of those games seem winnable if you can't beat the Giants and the Raiders. Big game for the Browns. Big game if they're going to turn their season around and be competitive and find the fire that they found last year when Watson got hurt and Flacco came in and they wound up going to the playoffs and winning double-digit games. I mean, they have been an absolute nightmare this year. They have to find it against the Commanders. Other 1 o'clock game. You go to London. You got the Jets against the Vikings. Jets are another team. They can't lose this game, and the Vikings are tough. The Jets lose. They go to 1-4. 1-4. They will be calling for Robert Saleh's head. They will be calling for Nathaniel Hackett's head. They will be lighting everything on fire in New York if the Jets lose this game. They cannot go to 1-4. I mean, especially in the way they lost to the Broncos. They generated no offense at home against the Broncos, coming off a win, that get-right win that they had Thursday night against the Patriots. You thought they started to look good. That was an inexcusable display of offense against the Denver Broncos. What the Jets need to do is get some semblance of a downfield passing game. It doesn't have to light up the world, but why did you bring Aaron Rodgers in? You have Aaron Rodgers, you have Garrett Wilson, you signed Mike Williams. Right now, he's healthy. He worked his way back. He's had a couple of good games here in a row, but you can't have Aaron Rodgers, Garrett Wilson, and Mike Williams and not have any semblance of a downfield offense. That has to be awakened within their offense. They've thrown the ball to the running backs. They threw the ball a little bit to the tight end the last 2 weeks. They absolutely need to get some deep vertical firepower out of Wilson and out of Mike Williams. If they can't do that, then what's the point? What's the point of having Aaron Rodgers if you can't operate a downfield offense? Makes no sense. That's what they have to do, and they have to do it against the Vikings. And listen, they'll get opportunities because the Vikings are going to come after them. That's what Brian Flores does. He has been doing a great job this year. The Vikings are undefeated. They've been playing great offensively. They've been playing fairly well defensively. They got a big on Green Bay. You knew the Packers last week would make a game of it, though. You knew it wasn't going to be that one-sided of a game. They have a chance to go 5-0 into the bye with Sam Darnold playing out of his mind. That is not a storyline I saw going into the year. But you cannot argue with the results. They've played the Texans. They've played the Packers. They played the 49ers. They are proven. They have proven themselves so far. I'm not saying they can't come back to earth a little bit, and we'll see what happens in this Jets game. But if they are 5-0 going into the bye with all those victories, Texans, Packers, Niners, pouncing on a Jets team, beating handily a Giants team in the season opener, you are going to start to look at the Vikings as a real threat. If you don't already, you're going to start looking at the Vikings as a real threat in the NFC. And that second Vikings-Packers game is going to be huge later in the year. And obviously the Lions games as well. 3-team race, Lions, Packers, Vikings might be the most exciting division in the NFL with the NFC North, which leads me to the Bears. Now, the Bears are home against the Panthers. I said this last week. I said the Bears cannot function if they are going to have Caleb Williams throw the ball 50 times like he did the week before. That is not a recipe for the success. They need to run the ball, control time of possession the best they can, and they need to play defense. They have an excellent defense. They have one of the best defenses in the NFL. So they just can't have Caleb Williams or the offense screw it up. And they did just that last week against the Rams. They won 24-18. They played good defense. Caleb Williams didn't light the world on fire, but he made the plays he needed to make. They didn't turn the ball over left and right. Ball control, defense, have Caleb Williams make a couple of special plays, which will help Caleb. He will not develop bad habits. He will not be one of those quarterbacks who gets hit and regresses and, has bad technique and turns the ball over if you let him play within structure. If you give him a game script that is easy to follow, that is based on running the ball, getting the offensive line lathered up, not having them in pass protection, which is not their strength, and letting the defense make plays. Caleb played his first, I think it was the first game of the year. He had Keenan Allen, he had Rome Odunze, he had DJ Moore. That's okay that they didn't light up the scoreboard. They won the game. They got their second win of the year, and they should be able to beat this Panthers team. The defense should be able to keep this game. The offense just has to make a few plays. The Panthers weren't bad last week. They lost 34-24 to the Bengals. Bengals got their first win, but they had more yards than the Bengals. They ran the ball well, again, for the second straight week. They got a good game from Andy Dalton. Their wide receivers are starting to show up. Their running game's starting to show up. Look, the Bengals just got a few more big plays from Jamar Chase and their wide receivers, as they should, as the Bengals should. The Bengals have been awful defensively, but Joe Burrow the last 2 weeks is starting to get it going with his wide receivers, Chase, and obviously having T. Higgins back. The defense for the Panthers, though, it did take a hit. Shaq Thompson's going to be out. That's unfortunate. He's having a good year. He's always been a good player for them. Josie Jewell's a little beat up. Their offensive line's a little banged up. That's not good for them. I think they're going to struggle in Chicago against this Bears defense. Uh, and look, the Bears could be 3-2 after this. After the way they started and after their inconsistency, if the Bears win, they're 3-2. Does that mean they're ready to compete with the Vikings, the Packers, the Lions? No, certainly not. But if you're a Bears fan, all you're interested in is not this year, but the growth, the process, your young quarterback getting better each week. You win, you're 3-2 as you continue to grow your identity. And that's good. By the way, they have the Jags the week after, then the bye, and then 2 weeks after that, the Cardinals. All right. So the schedule, if you can go to 3-2, you can start to see how you can stack a few more wins and be more competitive. Again, not ready to compete with the upper echelon, at least offensively, but maybe your defense helps you steal a game that you shouldn't or weren't expected to win. Maybe you get into that wild card hunt. All right, big AFC Central game. I'm sorry, big AFC North game between the Ravens and the Bengals. The Ravens 2.5-point favorites in Cincinnati. Now the Bengals did rebound from their loss Monday night to Washington. Their 0-3 start. They got to win against the Panthers. It does not get easier for them. They've got Baltimore now. If they can win and get to 2-3, they have the Giants and the Browns back to back after. So you could see how the Bengals could start to make a move here, but it's not going to be easy because you got the Ravens coming to town. And the Ravens have found something in their run game as of late. They're 2-2. King Henry in the last 2 weeks has rushed for 250 yards. And not surprisingly, they've won both of those games after an 0-2 start. They sort of look like a mess. You know, they lose that really airtight season opener to Kansas City. Receivers toe on the line. They don't win that game. Then they lose. They blow a huge lead, the Ravens did, to the Raiders, who are not a good team. But then they come back and beat the Cowboys. And then obviously they get a big win last week over the Buffalo Bills. I mean, their defense, which has not been great, looked really good against Buffalo. Played well, made Josh Allen look mortal. But there's something about this Ravens team that, they're inconsistent defensively. And Mark Andrews is AWOL. Their second leading receiver is the backup running back, Justice Hill. Zay Flowers had one decent game. They just don't seem right offensively yet, outside of the running game. The running game will be there for them. That is their bread and butter. King Henry, Justice Hill. They can run the ball with Lamar Jackson. They're going to need some offense, though. You know, the Bengals look like they're getting right offensively, and the Ravens are going to need to find a little bit more diversity, I guess, in their offense, in their passing offense. If it's not going to be Mark Andrews, it's going to have to be Lively. It's going to have to be Zay Flowers. Someone's got to step up and make some more passing plays for them in the pass game. Dolphins and Patriots. Now, the Patriots are 1-point favorites at home against the Dolphins. This is not going to be a fun game for anybody to watch, including everybody in the stadium, Dolphins fans, Patriots fans. It's going to be a very, very eyesore game. I said last week, you're going to see 2 weeks ago how bad the Dolphins offensive line is when Tua isn't there and how much the offense is built around Tua's ability to process and get rid of the ball very quickly because the offensive line stinks. All right. They cannot get any traction right now in the running game. Mostert was out. Achane hasn't been able to run the ball well. The rookie hasn't been able to run the ball well. People think of the Dolphins as a Tyreek Hill / Jalen Waddle operation, but everything that Mike McDaniel does with his offense works off the run game. And a lot of that outside zone they run is because they don't have a very good offensive line. So they have to get the running backs out on the edges in space. But right now they can't get anything going anywhere. They've gone through 4 quarterbacks. I have to believe that they have a really good feeling that Tua is going to come back, or else they would have done something at quarterback more than Snoop Huntley or Skylar Thompson or Tim Boyle. They would have done something. They must truly believe that Tua is probably going to come back. And when he comes back, he's going to have to be the savior of that offense. It does look like Teron Armstead, their left tackle, will be able to come back maybe for this game, so that'll be a huge plus. They will take a step up on the offensive line if they have him. Perhaps they get Odell Beckham Jr. back for this game, or if not this game, soon. That'll help them a little bit. But the bottom line is that if they can't run the ball and if they don't get better play at quarterback, they are not going to be able to be a functional offense. So it doesn't matter whether OBJ comes back or not. Defense took a hit with Jalen Phillips going out now. Sucks for him. He's a very good pass rusher. They're still waiting to get Bradley Chubb back. This team right now, just too many injuries. Just too many injuries. But this game, you're going to play a New England Patriots team that's not good. They're 1-3. You know, they kind of sucker punched Cincinnati in the season opener, got themselves a quick 1-0 win. Looked like they'd be competitive in week 2 when they took Seattle to overtime, but it's been downhill ever since. They've been a dormant team, offensively especially. They have 16 total points in the last 2 weeks, and there's no reason to think it's going to get better. They have said that they're sticking with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. That's fine. You can't convince me that if you just put Drake May in, even if he's better than Brissett, that they're just going to have, you know, a light and day switch in offense. They're just a bad offensive team. They got to ground and pound and play great defense, but they're banged up defensively and they're banged up on the offensive line. So it's not easy to play ground and pound. Is it going to be good enough to beat this Miami team? Maybe. I wouldn't feel great about it. Patriots are 1-point favorites. Anybody can win this game. Anyone. I don't care. I know the Dolphins have been awful. Anybody can win this game. Honestly, it's going to be the team that loses this game that you talk about, not the team that wins the game, because I don't see this one being a one-sided game. I see it being very ugly, and the team that turns the ball over the least amount of times will probably be the team that wins that game. All right, Colts at Jaguars. Now, someone has to explain to me why the Jags are 3-point favorites in this game. I get that they are home. I don't care. I get that there's uncertainty about the Colts quarterback situation. I tell you what, I don't care who's starting at quarterback for the Colts. I don't care that Jonathan Taylor may not play. All right. The Jags are an awful team right now. Their defense has been okay in all but one game. All right. The offense is putrid. And now you've got Doug Peterson saying, well, hey, the coaches can only coach. Sorry, Doug. It doesn't work like that. You don't get to throw your players under the bus, especially after you lost 8 and 9 games last year at the end of the year. It's not a good situation. I don't know that Doug can make it through another loss here and an 0-5 start. So maybe the odds makers are saying the Jags are so desperate and that jobs are on the line here that they deserve to be 3-point favorites. I don't know if that's the reason or if it's just that they're home and that there's so much distrust of the Colts because of their injuries. But you can't convince me the Jags should be 3-point favorites in this game. I don't care who's starting quarterback. Last week, Flacco came in when Richardson got hurt, and the Colts beat the Steelers. They handed the Steelers their first loss. They've won 2 straight games. The Jaguars are going to be the easiest opponent to date for the Colts. They've already played the Texans, the Packers, the Bears, and the Steelers, all right? They've been in every single game. You can't convince me that not having Jonathan Taylor or not knowing whether it's going to be Joe Flacco or Anthony Richardson suddenly makes the Jags a lesser team. I'm sorry, the Colts a lesser team than the Jags. Jags 3-point favorites, mind-boggling to me. Gotta like the Colts in this game. Bills at Texans, love this matchup. 2 exciting quarterbacks to watch. Now the Bills are actually coming off a blowout loss to the Ravens. The Bills are actually 1-point favorites in this game on the road. Bills had a bad game against the Ravens. I'm not down on them. I thought that they were great going into that game. They got humbled a little bit. The Ravens had it going with the run game. It's going to happen. I don't think the Bills are now going to go into some downward spiral just because they lost to the Ravens in prime time. You knew that there was going to be a good matchup between 2 really good quarterbacks. And guess what? Now you got another one. And the Texans right now, they're almost too reliant. They're 3-1, but they're almost too reliant on CJ Stroud's greatness. Their run game wasn't great to start. I mean, Mixon was okay to start, but their run game was kind of predictable. They were in a lot of pass situations. Now you got Mixon hurt, backups hurt. All right. They were wiped out against the Vikings a couple of weeks ago and just barely beat the Jags at home. So the Texans are 3-1, but they're a little shaky the last 2 weeks. So I can see why the Bills are road favorites here. You do have 2 really, this will be a game worth watching just to see Josh Allen versus CJ Stroud. Anyone can win this game. Wouldn't surprise me if the Bills won. Wouldn't surprise me if the Texans won. I expect it to be a close game. Could this be a preview of the AFC Championship? It could. Game's worth watching just to see these quarterbacks go up against each other. But I do like the Bills to rebound and play a much stronger game against the Texans than they did against the Ravens. Raiders at Broncos. Now, the Raiders are coming off a win, but it was against the Browns. They don't have a lot going for them positively for a team that's coming off the win and a team that is 2-2 that also has a win against the Ravens. You got Devontae Adams. He wants out. He's not practicing. Max Crosby is hurt, missing his first games for the Raiders in, forever. They are not getting great quarterback play from Gardner Minshew. All right. And without Max Crosby, with their quarterback play as it is, without Devontae Adams, there's just not a whole lot to love about the Raiders, except for maybe Brock Bowers, and he's been quiet the last 2 games. But Raiders-Broncos is a rivalry game. Both teams will be amped up for this game. Antonio Pierce is going to get the Raiders charged up. He doesn't want any players out there making business decisions. I expect the Raiders to show up. I expect this to be a good game, mainly because it's a rivalry game and because you can't see either one of these teams just running away offensively. They're both very, very inept offensively. But I said a couple weeks ago, you will see the Broncos improve. You will see Bo Nix start to play a little better as he and Sean Payton get more comfortable with each other. That is inevitable. They're not playing great, but they played just well enough to squeeze out a win offensively over the Jets. The big surprise is that the Broncos defense has been very good. They have a no-name defensive front that has done an excellent job. They are the 3rd-ranked defense right now. They've got wins over the Jets and the Bucs. They humiliated the Bucs, and they've allowed just a total of 16 points in those 2 games. They gave Mayfield a real rough time. They gave Aaron Rodgers a real rough time. All right. Vance Joseph, their defensive coordinator, he's doing a great job. Highest blitz percentage in the league. The guy, he's like Todd Bowles. He wakes up out of bed and he's thinking about blitzing. I think they're blitzing at a 44% rate, and it's working because although Denver doesn't have a guy in their front 6 or front 7 that, has a name like Micah Parsons or has a name like Max Crosby, they've got 5 guys with at least 2 sacks. So that just shows you how good of a job Vance Joseph's doing. Broncos are 3-point favorites. They're at home. They've played well defensively the last 2 weeks. If they can just muster up a little bit more offensively, they can get Sutton in the game. If they can find something in their running game, the Broncos should be able to beat the Raiders, but it's a rivalry game. You just never know in those kind of games. Cardinals at 49ers, another division rivalry. Cardinals are 1-3, and they're clearly on their way to getting their annual participation trophy award. They looked nice for about a half in the season opener against the Bills until they blew that one. They beat the Rams in week 2, and everyone's thinking, hey, all right, Kyler Murray's starting to get it going. Year 2, Jonathan Gannon. Nope. Been downhill ever since. Murray is not playing well. They scored 27 points in their last 2 games, and now they got to figure out a way to beat the 49ers, who they haven't beaten since the 2021 season. And it won't get easier because they have the Packers after that and the Chargers after that. So you're sitting at 1-3. You got to beat a team that you haven't beaten in over 2 years. Okay, so you're probably going to be 1-4, and then you get the Packers and the Chargers, who are not easy games for the Cardinals. So is 1-5 and then 1-6 very reasonable? Yeah, it is. And then you're going to start to wonder about Kyler Murray. You're going to start to wonder how many games the Cardinals will actually win this year and what they're going to do at quarterback going forward. Because there's no way Jonathan Gannon's going to enter year 3 with the same quarterback if he's got back-to-back losing seasons in his first 2 years as the head coach. The Niners are getting healthier. They had Debo back last week, made some plays. Ayuk had one big play last week, so they're starting to get it. They had their get-right blowout win over the Patriots after they lost to the Vikings and the Rams back-to-back. And now they just got to get healthier. They got to get Kittle back, and we'll see with Christian McCaffrey if he's going to be able to come back. But they have to win this game because they're 2-2, and they got Seattle after this, Kansas City, Dallas, Tampa, Seattle again, Packers, Bills in the next 6. All right. That is a brutally tough schedule for a team that is just not as deep defensively as it's been, and for a team that is hurting right now offensively as far as health. Now, maybe Kittle and C-Mac will eventually come back and they'll have it at some point during that stretch, but this is why you got to be able to beat teams that you should beat. And the Cardinals are a team they should beat, and that's why they're 7.5-point favorites. Packers at Rams. Packers are 7.5-point favorites on the road. The bottom line is that Jordan Love just needs to play better. He was shaky versus the Eagles. Had a bad first half against the Vikings until he kind of came alive in the second half. This is not a good Rams defense. Jordan Love should be able to find his rhythm early against it. The Rams have given up the second most points in the league. They are bottom 5 in yards allowed. They're not good. They don't have playmakers, and they're hurt by the fact that their offense is so beat up. All right. So this is a Rams team right now that the Packers should be able to go in and handle. You know that in that venue, the Packers fans travel, and if the Packers, it'll be half Packers fans there. And if the Packers are leading at any point of the time, it'll sound like Lambeau West. So the Packers should be fine as long as Jordan Love plays with some consistency. I know they're banged up in the offense. I know Watson's hurt. Dobbs is hurt. One of the tight ends is hurt, but they still have plenty of weapons, between Jacobs and what they're getting out of Wilson as a running back. Wicks had a big game off the bench. I've always thought Dontavian Wicks is a good player. He started off slow this year, wasn't in their top 3 rotation. The injuries have now had him in there. Kraft has played well at tight end for them. They got plenty to be able to beat the Rams. They just have to get consistent play out of Jordan Love. And if they do, they're going to be a really tough team to beat. I mean, the Rams have no real home field advantage, and they've got no Nakua and Kupp. They have to get Nakua and Kupp back. But the bottom line is when those guys come back, it might be too late for the Rams, who are 1-3. They lose this game, they'll be 1-4, and it's just going to be tough sledding for them for the rest of the year unless those guys come back really healthy and they can click on all cylinders and compensate for what they don't have defensively. Giants at Seahawks out in Seattle. The Seahawks are 6-point favorites. Look, if the Giants don't have Neighbors, who suffered a concussion in that Thursday night game against Dallas, forget about it. It's going to be tough enough as it is for this team if he does make it back. But if he's not going to play, the Giants have no reason. There's no reason to think the Giants can win this game. They've been conservative offensively. They were conservative offensively against the Cowboys, and it cost them. They just don't have enough firepower. They're trying to get a nice little balance on offense. When they have Neighbors, if they have Neighbors, they need to throw the ball. They need to throw the ball to Neighbors. They need to throw the ball to Wan'Dale Robinson. They got to get the ball to Theo Johnson. Can't be running the ball. Can't be going underneath. Can't be dinking and dunking. They got to figure out ways to get more explosive. Jalen Hyatt has not been an explosive playmaker for them. He needs to get unlocked. If they can't do that, then there's no hope for this Giants team. Seattle's 3-1. The offensive firepower is really starting to come alive with their new offensive coordinator, Ryan Grubb from Washington, University of Washington. You're starting to see that downfield element with DK Metcalf, with Jackson Smith and Jigba. Tyler Lockett still gives them an ability to move the chains. And their running backs have been fantastic. Kenneth Walker came back from the injury. He was huge last week, even though they lost to the Lions. They're struggling defensively, the Seahawks are, but they've got really good offensive firepower. They're banged up on defense, but you're not worried about that when you're playing the Giants. The Giants, without Neighbors, and maybe without Singletary, they have nothing at their disposal to be able to hit the Seahawks where it hurts. On the other end, the Seahawks have a really healthy cast of receivers, of running backs, and Geno Smith is playing really well. Geno Smith's an underrated quarterback, very accurate quarterback, knows what he wants to do with the ball, has the playmakers. This could be one of those games where it gets out of hand pretty early if the Giants, if the Giants don't have Neighbors. All right, you got the 8:00 Sunday night game, Cowboys at Steelers. I know the Cowboys have not played well, but this is still a really big game for the Steelers because it's a big game for Justin Fields to keep his job. And he should keep his job if they win this game. Russell Wilson is back at practice. He's dealing with the calf. We know calf injuries can be tricky, but Russell Wilson's coming back, and they're still saying Fields is the guy until Wilson is healthy, right? Fields wins this game, and the Steelers go to 4-1. They would be nuts to go to Russell Wilson. I don't care if Russ has a C on his jersey. You're seeing Fields improve as a passer. He's finding a rhythm with Pickens. He's finding a rhythm with Freiermuth, his tight end. The offensive line has been banged up. Looks like they're going to get Isaac Seumalo back. That is huge for them, big for their run game. And you just don't want to pull the rug out under Justin Fields if they're 4-1 and starting to win games now. I know the Cowboys are off to a rough start, but it's still a win over the Cowboys if they can get it. Steelers are 2.5-point favorites. Dallas hasn't been impressive. They've only beaten the Giants and Browns. Those are not two impressive wins, and they barely beat the Giants, right? Their losses have been humiliating losses to the Ravens and the Saints. They were down big against the Ravens, tried to come back, lost, got blown out the week before against the Saints. Defense has been torched. Dak has played well. Not all his fault. But the bottom line is 2-2, haven't been impressive. They're sort of like the Eagles. 2-2, and you're just looking at them and you're thinking about everything that's wrong instead of anything that's gone right. It's not a game that they can't win against the Steelers. They can beat the Steelers. They are the better overall team, but they have not played at times this year like they are the better overall team. And now they'll miss Micah Parsons. Now they'll miss DeMarcus Lawrence. They're going to need Mike Zimmer to do his best work here. But listen, as nice as the Steelers have looked at 3-1, I can't act like this Steelers offense is the greatest show on turf. It's done just enough. It's improved. It doesn't mean that Dallas has to come in and succumb to this Steelers offense, even without Micah Parsons and without DeMarcus Lawrence. They can win this game. They just have to play like they are the better team. They got to figure it out. If they don't, 2-3, oh boy, it's going to be very interesting to see how Jerry Jones approaches a Dallas Cowboys team that's 2-3 under Mike McCarthy after their disappointment in the playoffs the last two seasons. All right, last game is the Monday night game at the New Orleans Saints at the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, you might look at this game and think, Saints had that high-powered offense, scored 40 points in a row, 2 straight games to start the year, and the Chiefs are the Chiefs. They got Patrick Mahomes and Kelsey and Andy Reid. This to me is not a game between two impressive offenses. First of all, this will be the Saints' first game outside of a dome or an inside game, Dallas, their own Superdome, Atlanta, right? They haven't played an outside game. We'll see if that speed of Shaheed and Olave and what they do in their running game, we'll see if it's the same in their first true outdoor game. I don't think it's going to be. I don't think so, especially against a really good Kansas City defense that, let's be honest, Kansas City's defense has carried the Chiefs for more than a year now. I mean, like I said, everybody talks about Reed, Mahomes, Kelsey, all the speed. They can do this, they can do that. The Chiefs have been a far better defensive team than offensive team for a while now. Kansas City is 4-0. They haven't scored more than 30 points yet. They haven't scored more than 25 points in their last 2 games. They haven't scored more than 30 points in a game since last November. And last year, they only scored 30 points or more 3 times. So in their last 21 games, they've only gone over 30 points 3 times. Compare that to 2022. They scored 30 or more 3 times in their first 5 games and 8 times overall. That's like 50% of the games they were just blowing up the scoreboard. This is a different Kansas City offense. And now there's no Rashee Rice. And now there's no Isaiah Pacheco. Against a Saints defense that I think is better, actually, than its offense. I don't trust the Saints offense outdoors against this Kansas City defense. They've only scored 8. They've averaged 18 points a game since the 40-point blowouts the first 2 weeks. All right, that's a far cry from how they started off. Over-under on this game is 43. Shows you that the odd makers don't trust the offenses either. I think it could be even lower scoring than that. Kind of a toss-up game. You give the Chiefs the edge because they're the Chiefs and they tend to win at home and they do tend to outcoach and outscheme other teams. But this one will be tight. I really think this will be tight. Be shocked if either one of these teams really takes handle and takes control of this game and puts a lot of points on the scoreboard. All right, I'm going to go to my picks. Now, Liz, I forgot to give you my picks at the end of the show last week. So what I did was I put them in the description box on the YouTube video. I went 2-1. I won on the Raiders -1 over the Browns. I won on the Bears -3 over the Rams. I lost on the Cardinals covering against Cardinals were favorite to be Washington. I lost on that, so I was 2-1. The week before, I was 3-0. I had the Bills over the Jags 5.5, which they covered. I had Seattle covering Miami 4.5. They did, and I had Green Bay getting points against Tennessee. I had Green Bay winning outright. They did. So I am 5-1 after an 0-6 start. I am 5-1 the last 2 weeks. That makes me 5-7 overall. Here's what I like this week. Excuse me. I like Green Bay, even though they're on the road over the Rams. They are 3.5-point favorites. I think they'll cover. I like the Seahawks over the Giants at home. They are giving 6 to the Giants. I think they'll cover, especially if Neighbors, like I said, Neighbors and Singletary don't play. I think that will be a one-sided game for the Seahawks. And I shouldn't pick this game. I make it a rule to try to avoid division rivalry games, but I struggled with this. But I am going to take the Broncos 3-point favorites at home against the Raiders. I do think the Raiders will be up to play. It's a rivalry game, but no Max Crosby, no Devontae Adams. That's a tough ask right there against a Broncos defense that has been suffocating the last 2 weeks. And now the Broncos are at home. I think they'll improve a little bit more offensively. This is not a great LA defense, so I will take the Broncos, giving 3 points to the Raiders to round it out. All right. That'll do it for the Inside the Birds Week 5 NFL preview. Everybody enjoy your football watching.